Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Rieser. I'm the General Secretary of the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum, and I'd like to congratulate everybody on taking part in Commonwealth Day on the 10th of March. We in the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum see this as an important day to look at where we've reached in our mission to get a disability inclusion action plan adopted across the Commonwealth and how far we still have to go. As you may know, we made quite a lot of progress in Samoa at CHOGM, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting last October, and managed to get paragraph 6, which agreed to set up a high-level advisory group advised by disabled people's organizations, and also to set up a ministerial group, which at the moment countries are being asked to nominate to through the law ministry, but the whole government is putting people forward. There is some urgency on this because we had a draft disability inclusion action plan, which you can see on our website, and we want to make progress on that. So this is really not starting from scratch, but based on what we see as some of the key implementation messages that are contained in the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. The situation is as follows. It is now nearly 2006 that treaty was ratified, and we are now in 2024, 18 years afterwards. We have reached the point where 54 of the 55 Commonwealth countries have ratified. That means they want to bring into law the UNCRPD. And that's really important that there's only one country, Tonga, left to do that. And we hope they will join their fellow countries very soon. Why this is important for us as disabled people, representing the 430 million disabled people that we identify in the Commonwealth. It is about protection from discrimination. It is about rights, equal rights to other human beings. And it is about having a justice system where we can get redress for discrimination and maltreatment of ourselves. We think it's really important that all our countries make progress towards setting up the practices and procedures and policies that are necessary for this to be implemented. Different countries are at different stages at making the implementation of the convention. But what is clear, and we're gathering data on this, is that far too many countries have not really begun the journey and are still thinking about getting the right legislation through. Let us be clear, getting the legislation through to domesticate the UNCRPD is just the first step. After that, we need to develop procedures in our courts, in our tribunals, in an understanding of the public about the rights of persons with disabilities to be treated fairly and equally in the society. The government has, as the state party that has ratified this convention, has certain requirements that from the moment it ratifies, it has to implement. It's not about a progressive realization, waiting until you have the resources to make this happen. Article 5 in particular requires state parties to get on and make reasonable accommodations, get on and make accessibility a reality, get on and make universal design something that will actually happen, get on and make the legal system accessible to people, get on and make the right for all people to be decision makers in their lives, and to get rid of outdated ideas of guardianship and instead support disabled people, particularly with intellectual impairments, learning difficulties, and mental health issues, neurodiverse, in supported decision-making. That is, providing people to help them make decisions about their lives. So we are in transition, as we are throughout the whole convention, from seeing the problem in the person to seeing the problem in the person as other, as really not part of human society, to seeing us as active citizens with rights to actually challenge and take forward those rights across the Commonwealth. Now, this fits in with the Commonwealth Charter, which is 14 years old, and are really the principles of a democratic society with a separate judiciary, a third estate of the press being able to comment, and a parliamentary system which is free from interference in the elections. Now, we have tried quite hard in this last year, 2024, the year of elections, to make sure that disabled people throughout the Commonwealth have been able to cast a vote freely and fairly. But more, we are seeking to get more disabled activists to run, to be part of various political parties, to run for office, because we think until we are in the Parliament buildings representing the disabled people out there, then there isn't going to be much change. So we've been working on that. But the key thing is the paradigm shift, which runs through everything that we want countries to be doing. And that is to actually move from seeing the problem is our impairment, what we can't do, to seeing the problem is not our impairment. Impairment has always been with us as human beings. The problem is the barriers that exist for people with various physical and mental impairments, because those who design and organize the society have not thought that we need to have accommodations built into the system. And that failure to make accommodation is disability discrimination. It needs to be challengeable in the courts and tribunals, and we need legislation that actually bring it through, so that we have a mechanism of auditing all built environment, a mechanism of auditing the information environment, a mechanism of auditing all the print environment, a mechanism of auditing all the auditory environment, so that people who need information in alternative formats do get it. And this is something that has to happen. We think, as the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum, representing more than 50 umbrella DPOs and 100 members in 51 countries of the Commonwealth, think it is about time that this was treated as a real priority. And we're pleased that the Commonwealth are agreeing with us on this. A little bit more about that in a moment. But I would like you all to put pressure on your governments to send representation to the body that is actually looking at setting up a disability inclusion action plan. And the timescale on this is short. We have nominated people to be on the high-level advisory group and put forward DPOs with expertise who will help. And we then need to look at the draft that we produced for CHOGM last year and to develop it so that it is actually a cross-cutting plan that will help all countries collaborate, north-south, south-south, north-north, so that they can actually develop more disability equality and learn from each other's expertise. In order to do this, as I say, the advisory group will meet, but it will also need to have a sounding board of the ministerial group, which will then agree this in draft, and it will then go from July to the papers for the Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting in Fiji next February. And we're hoping very much that the law ministers will then agree in principle this document, which will finally go to the heads of government in Antigua next June. And we're hoping to make the focus in Antigua and the Caribbean a big focus on disability rights in May and June 26. And we will require all of your help to do that. This is not business as usual, because we are working against a backdrop of a very hostile environment towards human rights and aid. We have already witnessed in the last month to 40 days of the impact of Mr. Trump and the cutting back of US aid, which has impacted on many hundreds of disability projects. But as a result of that, there's a cutback taking place in Belgium, in France, and the amount they're spending. Luckily not in Germany yet. And we're hoping that Germany at the Global Summit in 2 weeks' time will commit itself again to supporting more disability projects around the world. But, you know, the UK is halving their aid. Why? Because they need to spend money on supporting developing their armaments because of the difficult security situation. What we're saying is that the countries, the donor countries, need to group together to get the best use out of the resources that they've got, that the NGOs need to group together so that we're not replicating each other in some sort of ridiculous competition, but we are collaborating to meet the really essential needs of disabled populations across the majority world of the Commonwealth and other parts of the world. So we think that's really important, and it's a way that countries, both at the Global Summit and at the UN Conference of State Parties, can counter what is happening from the alt-right and their idea that you can forget about the rest of the world. The world is one planet, one small planet in space, and we either work together or we die together. That's the stark reality of what's happening. And so neoconservative economic models, which don't actually fit into the world as it is, which are counter to the resilience that we need to be building for a green future, have to be challenged. And we need to say for disabled people that that future needs to include us, that we need to be at the forefront of fighting global warming, of making sure that the rescue plans that are drawn up include us. So I urge you to support your national DPOs and to support the work that we do. Look at our website, www.commonwealthdpf.org, and there's lots of material on there. But most of all, create a climate in your country to get the government and the parliamentarians supporting the drawing up in 25-26 of the final Disability Inclusion Action Plan, which will trigger a lot of activity across the Commonwealth, learning from each other in all sorts of ways. So I thank you, and I wish you well for Commonwealth Disabled People, Commonwealth Day, and particularly for Commonwealth disabled people. Thank you.